These are not the stories of buildings and locations. They're stories of people. They are the stories of people who gave all for all so that others could find and follow Jesus. These are the stories of people who loved the Lord in such a way that it affected what they did and what they said and who they reached. It affected their lives with people across the street and around the world. In 1923, the Dunham estate was purchased for $6,000. And then, not until 1937, when George Cowan, the new pastor, arrived, did a new church building began to be built. And in that event, he asked the question, how do people get involved? Not just some people, but all people. How do we invite everyone into the process? And his answer was a mile of pennies. He said that they didn't want to build the church until they had a penny after penny after penny stacked right one in front of the other, going the distance of 1 mile. A mile's worth of pennies in the 40s wouldn't be enough to afford the building entirely. But it was an opportunity to invite everyone to be a part of something bigger than themselves, to join together. And it was in this season that we hear from the leadership a word that they felt God telling them to share with the church. And that word came from the realization that in that time, in the middle of the 20th century, there was a lot of division going on. That there was a lot of people kind of separating out into my church, or your church, or their church. This group went over here, another group went over there. And even in the banner of Christ, there was not a lot of interacting between these separate communities. And so in this season, this word that the leadership was given was whosoever. The same whosoever found in John 3:16, as read from the King James Version. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Whosoever believes in him would be saved. And this was an invitation and a challenge to the church, an invitation to invite whosoever into Christ's family, that all of the boundaries and the borders that the culture had erected in order to keep separate, whosoever became an invitation to invite people past those boundaries and those borders. The same division for whom Christ died, this word whosoever began to break down. It was also a challenge to the church that we aren't led to our own ideas of who's in and who is out to define us, but rather we define the church by who Christ died for. See, the story about Faith Alliance is a story about our particular people in a particular place, in a particular time, for a particular reason. That we are to hold up Christ high for everyone to see. We want to carry on that word whosoever as an invitation and a challenge today. That whosoever believes in him. And that our goal to give all for all to find and follow Jesus would be to invite whosoever would come to know him. And to challenge us to make sure that whosoever becomes our call for Christ to be made known in our city and in the nations. For God sent not his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved.